So we will begin with verse number 12 of Surah Maida, which is, of course, the fifth surah of the Quran. We've already discussed this, that this is the last surah of the first chapter, and its counterpart is Surah Nisa, which was the previous surah. And both these surahs, they form a pair. And in this sense, God being described and how Muslims abide by the history of the Israelites is also reminded to them, and they are told how they were guilty of this breach, and Muslims should never follow their path. In fact, so beginning with verse number 12, the words are وَلَقَدْ أَخَذَ اللَّهُ مِيثَاقَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ الله إني معكم لئن أقمتم الصلاة وآتيتم الزكاة وآمنتم برسلي وعزرتموهم وأقرضتم الله قرضا حسنا لأكفرن عنكم سيئاتكم ولأدخلنكم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار فمن كفر بعد ذلك فقد ضل سواء السبيل. In a similar manner, God had taken a covenant from the Israelites as well, and to protect it, we had deputed on them 12 chiefs from among them. Be with you if you diligently adhered to the prayer, paid the zakat, and acknowledged my messengers, and helped them, and kept giving a generous loan to God, your Lord. Then you should rest assured that I shall brush away your mistakes from you, and will definitely admit you into orchards below which streams flow. Then, even after this covenant, those of you who disbelieve should know that they have strayed from the straight path. So it is clear from this verse, and this is one of the very important verses of the Quran regarding the history of the Israelites, because it actually tells them how they had initially promised that the final prophet, when he would come, they would actually welcome him, they would profess faith in him, and in fact, this is a commitment that God had given them from Himself, that if they do so, they help his prophet, and they welcome him, they abide by the covenant that they are now making with him. Then God says that He will brush away their sins, and admit them into paradise. So, in other words, it was right at the time of Moses, when this contract was taken, or this commitment was taken from them, that they will honor the last prophet. Now, the word naqib, as you can see, is used here in the Arabic language. وَبَعَثْنَا مِنْهُمُ اثْنَيْ عَشَرَ نَقِيبًا. So, the real meaning of this word is that someone who investigates and wants to find out the truth behind something, and therefore it is used as a chief. It means the chief or the guardian of a tribe or a nation. And we know from history that the Israelites, after Moses bound them in a covenant of obeying the Sharia and protected it, he actually deputed on each of the tribes, the 12 tribes that he had, these naqib, or these leaders. And the purpose was that these leaders should watch over their people in obeying the Sharia, and see to the fact that nothing infiltrates in them which might lead them to violate their covenant with God. Now, since the Israelites had 12 tribes, the number of chiefs deputed was also 12. They were appointed by Moses at the behest of the Almighty. So remember, this is something of a divine appointment. God had asked Moses to appoint 12 leaders and look after those 12 tribes, and make them realize that they have now committed a covenant with God, in which they will be abiding by His Sharia, and when the last messenger comes, they are going to welcome him, embrace his faith in him, profess faith in him, and of course help him. And if you look at this word, the second line, it says وَقَالَ اللَّهُ إِنِّي مَعَكُمْ, which means I shall be with you. This word, I shall be with you, is something that really needs to be understood, which means that God says that I am going to be with you, I'm going to be helping you, I'm going to be supporting you, which means that if God is with them, then of course they need not worry about anyone else. They need not worry about the their adversaries, or the opposition in any way offered by other people. So the word zakat and acknowledged by His messengers, as you can see, occurs here. And the promise was taken from the Israelites. It has a very special reference, as you can see, for the last prophet who has been mentioned here. And of course, we know that this is not the only place in the Quran where this promise is referred to. We know in Surah Araf, we know in some of the other surahs, the Israelites were clearly called to this commitment, and they had made this commitment, and and the Quran has reminded them that they find the Prophet's name mentioned in their scriptures, and if they still take this excuse, or make this excuse that they would not like to profess faith in him because he has come from a different lineage, not from the Israelites but from the Ishmaelites, and this is not only arrogance on their part but a clear breach of their promise. And then it says, فَمَنْ كَفَرَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ فَقَدْ ضَلَّ سَوَاءَ السَّبِيلِ. So, of course, this is something that we have to understand, that when God says that He is going to brush away the mistakes of these people, and He's going to admit them into paradise, of course, the word sayyat has been used, and the word sayyat actually refers to those minor sins, and of course, which can be obliterated if forgiveness is sought from God, and at the same time, if these sins relate to people also, then forgiveness from them is also something which is important. But this word which says, or this sentence says, فَمَنْ كَفَرَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ مِنْكُمْ فَقَدْ ضَلَّ السَّوَاءَ السَّبِيلِ, it actually shows that if the Israelites deviated from this covenant, it would be tantamount to denying God, because it says, فَمَنْ كَفَرَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ مِنْكُمْ فَقَدْ ضَلَّ سَوَاءَ السَّبِيلِ, because it has been called that they will be ending up in disbelief. They are going to they're going to lose the right path. So kafara ba'da zalika, of course, means that those who deny this covenant, it is tantamount to denying God, and therefore losing their way. And a little before that, one small thing that also might need explanation is this term qarzan hasanan. So basically, this is a term which is used often in the Quran, and it relates to the loan or the infaq, as we can see, that is spent for the cause of God, specifically in striving for His cause and for emergency needs, like, for example, jihad or war. And it has been called as a loan to God, just to show this affection from God, that whatever you spend on God is going to be returned to you manyfold. And it is like a loan to God. It is something that is a responsibility on God to return it. And of course, we don't give this loan to God. It's just an expression of affection from God, that whatever you spend on me, I'm going to treat it as a loan. So God is telling human beings that when they spend for His cause, it's like a loan that they have given to God. It's like a money that God has borrowed from them when they spend for His cause. And you can imagine, when God is going to give back that loan, then how gracious and how magnanimous He would be. So this is a term that should inspire every person, that as far as giving this loan is to God is concerned, even today when the need arises for any emergency, for any lending to God, and God is going to really be graciously returning it. فبما نقضهم ميثاقهم لعناهم وجعلنا قلوبهم قاسية يحرفون الكلم عن مواضعه ونسوا حظا مما ذكروا به ولا تزال تطلع على خائنة منهم إلا قليلا منهم فاعف عنهم واصفح إن الله يحب المحسنين. So, because they broke this covenant of theirs, we cursed them and hardened their hearts. Now their situation is that they sever words from their context and occasion, and have forgotten a part of that through which they had been reminded. And it is a result of this that every now and then news of one fraud of theirs or the other comes to your notice. Very few of them do not indulge in this. You can expect nothing good from them now. So, O Prophet, pardon them and keep forgiving them, because God likes those who are thorough. So now we are given this information that these Israelites, after making this covenant, they never abided by this covenant. They never fulfilled the requisites of this covenant, and therefore you can see how the Almighty has said that because they broke this covenant, la'annahum, we cursed them, which means that God deprived them of His mercy, and He humiliatingly dismissed them from His presence. So the word curse is, it's something, its English connotation that we know of is concerned. So it actually comprehensively tells us that how they stand humiliated in the eyes of God. And the first consequence of a nation being cursed, as you can see, is that it is deprived of the fear of God. So they no longer have this regard and fear of God, because you see, it is this fear which guarantees a living and a vibrant heart. which as a result becomes hardened. If you don't have this soft heart, and if you continue to be deprived of God's fear, you don't have any regard for Him, then your hearts will become hard, and they became stone-hearted, and the seeds of repentance thus cannot be sown, so to speak, in such a hard soil. Nation, I mean, the nation makes a promise and then it breaks it. And because of the fact that the established practice of God is that God has attributed this to Himself, because He is the person who is going to reward and punish people for what they did to Him. Remember, the covenant was made with Him. And this callousness actually emboldens a nation which has breached a promise to not stop at merely breaking its promise with God. It even changes and alters the words of the promise to mold it according to its own desires. So if you can see, it says, يُحَرِّفُونَ الْكَلِمَ عَن مَوَاضِعِهِ, which means that they were people who actually they did change the occasion and the context of the words of the Torah, and we know that they changed the spellings, they changed the pronunciations, they changed the occasion, they made history enter into the Torah. And as you can see, the words are وَنَسُوا حَظًّا مِمَّا ذُكِّرُوا بِهِ, which means that they have forgotten a part of that through which they had been reminded, which means that the Torah, because it is this testament of God about which the Israelites were bound in a promise to obey, and through which an arrangement of reminding them had been made. So, if we also study Jewish history, we know that they altered its words, they distorted its meanings through various interpretation, and even they were guilty of concealing facts from their masses. And this was far from the from what we can see was actually the commitment they had made. So they actually forgot this commitment which was made in the Torah. وَنَسُوا حَظًّا مِمَّا ذُكِّرُوا بِهِ. They changed the occasion and the context of the verses of the various constructions and sentences of the Quran. As you can see, يُحَرِّفُونَ الْكَلِمَ عَن مَوَاضِعِهِ. And then it says that you will hear every now and then that a group of them has in some form or the other shown this dishonesty, and you can see the words are illa qalilan minhum, which means that a very few among them will be on the right track, and they will be the ones who do not indulge in this dishonesty that has been praised in the Quran and had actually embraced faith. So, as far as this pardon is concerned, which you can see, which is being mentioned by the words "fa'fu anhum wasfah," actually it means that I mean, it does not mean in the sense that you forgive them. In the sense that you forgive them, it actually means just ignore them. Just do not take notice of their faults at the moment, because God is just giving them more respite, and He is going to catch them unaware one day. As far as the Prophet is concerned, let them he should let them be as they are, and let God deal with them. So fa'fu anhum wasfa actually means that just ignore them and take no notice of what they are doing. وَمِنَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّا نَصَارَى أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَهُمْ فَنَسُوا حَظًّا مِمَّا ذُكِّرُوا بِهِ فَأَغْرَيْنَا بَيْنَهُمُ الْعَدَاوَةَ وَالْبَغْضَاءَ إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ وَسَوْفَ يُنَبِّئُهُمُ اللَّهُ بِمَا كَانُوا يَصْنَعُونَ. In a similar manner, so remember earlier on we were talking about the Jews, and now we come to the Nazarenes or the Christians. So in a similar manner, we took a covenant from those who said we are Nazarenes. Then they too forgot a part of that through which they were reminded. Therefore we stirred among both of them the fire of enmity and hatred, which will endure until the day of judgment. They are now burning in it, and soon God will inform them of what they have been doing. So the very first thing that you might notice in this verse is وَمِنَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّا نَصَارَى. We took a covenant from those who said we are Nazarenes. So in other words, the word Nasara or Nazarene is also something which they actually call themselves. I mean, this is a name that they gave themselves. So we know that the word Christian was given to them by Paul much later, but Nazarene is also not something of a name that was given to them by Jesus. So Nazarene, of course, referring to Nazareth, a place where Jesus was. He stayed a lot of time, spent a lot of time in the city of Nazareth, and he's called Jesus of Nazareth as a result of that. And they started calling themselves to be Nazarenes. So this verse clearly shows that it was not God who gave them this name; it was they themselves. And we also know from this that as far as the name of God's religion is concerned, it was always Islam. And Surah Hajj tells us that it was Abraham who would actually single out that all of his followers would be called Muslim and Islam will be their religion. So whether they belong to the Jewish creed or the Christian creed, as we all know, which followed later on, in fact, the original name was given to these followers was Islam. And whether the word Nazarene is used or whether the word Christian is used, these were all بينهم العداوة والبغضاء إلى يوم القيامة, which means that because of this continuous interpolation of the book of God and squandering away a part of it, is mentioned here, of course, that they also they had forgotten a part of it through which they were reminded. God says the result was that a permanent enmity, a permanent animosity was raised between them. The Jews and the Christians, of course, they are being referred to. There is a constant rivalry between the Jews and Christians. It might not be apparent on the surface, but we very well know that this is something that has existed in their scriptures and their history. It did take some violent turns, but today, if we see this hushed up, it should not mean that this rivalry has just died away. It's still there. We know that the Jews do not accept Jesus as a prophet of God, and as a result of them, the followers of Jesus, of course, they are always at bay with them, and there has been a lot of persecutions, of course, also of the Jews in the times of the Christians, and that is, of course, something of a historical thing that you might study, how the Jews have been persecuted by the European Christians and how this has remained amongst them. So the Quran has actually pointed out that because of this, the fact that both of these denominations, they forgot these promises that they had made with God. Ultimately, they ended up fighting with one another, and this is something that's going to continue until the day of judgment, until, of course, they accept their mistake. And then God says, فَسَوْفَ يُنَبِّئُهُمُ اللَّهُ بِمَا كَانُوا يَصْنَعُونَ, and soon God will inform them of what they have been doing. يا أهل الكتاب قد جاءكم رسولنا يبين لكم كثيرا مما كنتم تخفون من الكتاب ويعفو عن كثير قد جاءكم من الله نور وكتاب مبين يهدي به الله من اتقى إلى النور بإذنه ويهديهم إلى صراط مستقيم. O people of the book, to you has come our messenger who is revealing much of what you have been concealing of the book of God and is also ignoring many things. This light has come to you from God, a book which explains everything related to religion. Through it, God guides to the paths of peace those who seek to please Him, and through His grace and blessing leads them from the vastness of the path. So you see, in this regard, the Quran has given its charge sheet at a number of occasions, and it has repeated it here, that it says, "Kuntum tukhfuna min al-kitab," which means that you were concealing the book of God through, at times, interpolations, at times through their meanings, at times hiding the real teachings of the book. We know that the Torah was in the custody of their scholars mostly, and they would make their masses read it when they would come to them, and they would not always reveal what some of the other pages that they had withheld with them actually housed. So the word tukhfuna is actually used, that they hid a lot of the directives of the Torah from the common masses. And in spite of that, God says, وَيَعْفُ عَنْ كَثِيرٍ, that He is also ignoring many of these faults. So it should not be any cause of any further latitude on their part, and think that. So it says, قَدْ جَاءَكُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ نُورٌ وَكِتَابٌ مُبِينٌ, is this book because through it God is guiding them. Manittaba rizwanahu subul salam, that he is guiding those people to the paths of peace, and people who seek to please Him, and He's taking them out from the vastness of the darkness. And you can note that the word used is bi'iznihi, which means that the implication is that it is the permission of God that a person is blessed with the good of fortune of being led out of darkness into light. This permission is granted only to those who seek the pleasure of God, who seek to please Him. It is because of this that the word has been translated as grace and blessing. So bi'iznihi literally would mean through His permission. However, it actually refers to His grace and His blessing, that people are able to come out from the darkness of light, and He guides them to the straight path, which is mentioned here as Sirati Mustaqim. لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْمَسِيحُ ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ. قل فمن يملك من الله شيئا إن أراد أن يهلك المسيح ابن مريم وأمه ومن في الأرض جميعا ولله ملك السماوات والأرض وما بينهما يخلق ما يشاء والله على كل شيء قدير. Now, a very important verse regarding Christian beliefs and how they ended up making Jesus to be the Son of God. And the words are, there is no doubt that those who declared God is only this Messiah, the Son of Mary, have committed disbelief. Ask them, who can prevent God, if he so willed, from killing the Messiah, the Son of Mary, his mother, and all the people of the earth? No one can influence his decisions because God has sovereignty over the heavens and the earth and all that lies between them. He creates whatever he wills, and God has power over all things. So, as you can see, it is said that people who say that God is this Messiah or God is someone who is Jesus himself, then this is something of a disbelief. Now, it actually refers to the followers of St. Paul, who, by regarding Jesus to be a manifestation of God, had adopted or actually introduced the concept of Trinity amongst the Christians. We know Trinity has found no expression in the Bible. It is a later belief inducted in Christianity by Saint Paul, and it is very much like the concept of Wahdatul Wujud, which our Sufis and our mystics believe in, and a lot of effort is spent to assign a different status to each member of Trinity. I mean, although it is said that the three manifestations, the Son, the Holy Ghost, and God Himself, they are three. But instead of regarding them to be three, they say that, well, this is actually one having three manifestations. So something very similar to Wahdatul Wujud, in which, of course, the way Sufis, they describe the Almighty in the sense that this universe is not a creation of God, it's like a manifestation of God. So in a similar way, they have tried to explain that, well, Jesus is like a biological, or is not in the sense the same biological father as we would say, but he is in the sense a manifestation of God on earth. So God says that this is virtually disbelief, and it is not acceptable that he be called the Son of God. So, as far as the Quran is concerned, it says that, well, this is something that is absolutely not acceptable. But one thing that we have already been discussing, that as far as God is concerned, in spite of the fact that Christians have this blatant deviation from monotheism, but they still are called monotheists by God simply because they themselves prescribe and subscribe to monotheism and do not think in any way that by regarding Jesus to be the Son of God, they are actually creating multiple gods or are being guilty of polytheism. So the Quran, although has called it to be disbelief, but still has taken their word, that because they think that this is actually like a monotheistic creed, so therefore they are still called monotheists by the Quran, and God has sovereignty over the heavens and the earth, and therefore they must not think that He has any children, or He needs any children or deputies for this reason. وقالت اليهود والنصارى نحن أبناء الله وأحباؤه قل فلم يعذبكم بذنوبكم بل أنتم بشر ممن خلق يغفر لمن يشاء ويعذب من يشاء ولله ملك السماوات والأرض وما بينهما وإليه المصير. These Jews and Christians claim, we are the sons of God and His loved ones. Ask them, why then has He been punishing you for your sins? Certainly not. In fact, you are also mortals from among the mortals created by Him. He will forgive whomsoever He wants from among you and punish according to His law whomsoever He wants. No one can influence His decisions because the sovereignty of the heavens and the earth and all that lies between them belongs to Him, and each of you shall return to Him. So this word son, as you might be knowing, is used many times in the Bible to connote someone who is a favored one, someone who is a loved one. So instead of comprehending the responsibilities of the position bestowed on the Israelites by the Almighty, they wrongly concluded that this bestowal was something that was given to them because they were God's favorites. So we know that the responsibility of delivering the truth was given to the Israelites, and they thought that this was like a privilege given to them, and this was because they were chosen people of God. And the Quran has clarified that yes, you were chosen, but not chosen because you were favored, or you were beloved people of God, but because you were given this responsibility. And had you been favored ones and loved ones of God, why would God have punished you for a lot of sins that you have done? So we know in history that they have been continuously punished. Even in the times of Moses, we know when they ended up worshipping the calf, and they were punished for this. And ever since that time, right up to the prophet Jesus, I mean, they tried to crucify, they have been guilty of this. And God says that when they have been punished continuously for this breach, how can they be called favored ones and loved ones of God? And that is why they are said, "Bal antum basharum mimman khalaq," you are ordinary creatures of God. To you also applies all those laws. And if God is going to punish you for your sins, and these sins are not going to in any way be let off from you on the day of judgment, of course God will administer justice, something that will be done on the day of judgment. But remember, this is something that they should always remember and keep in mind, that God has been with them in the slavery of their own nation. They were wandering in the desert of Sinai, they were exiled from one place, and we know that the destruction of Jerusalem mosque took place twice in history, and this has been happening ever since then. So it's not true in any sense that they claim that they have made, that they are favored ones of God, because this never happens. If had they been favored ones of God, He would not have punished in this manner the way they have been punished. Ya Ahlul Kitab, قد جاءكم رسولنا يبين لكم على فترة من الرسل أن تقولوا ما جاءنا من بشير ولا نذير فقد جاءكم بشير ونذير والله على كل شيء قدير. O people of the book, this messenger of ours has come to you after an interval which saw no messenger, and is explaining religion to you from all aspects, lest you say, no one has come to us to deliver glad tidings and warnings. So see that a deliverer of God, of glad tidings and warnings, has come to you, so that God conclusively conveys the truth to you before seizing you, and God has power over all things. So as you can see that after Jesus had left this world, it was almost 500 years in which no prophet came, and it was Prophet Muhammad who came. And that is precisely what these people of the book are being told, that the messenger of God has arrived, his final messenger has arrived after a long period of, after a long gap, in fact, and you should not have any complaints or any sort of thing that can cause a hindrance in this, because God has now revealed the final word. He has sent his final prophet. You cannot say that a warner or a glad person who delivers glad tidings has not come to them. Now they are given this final chance, and if they don't take up this final chance, then of course they are done for. وإذ قال موسى لقومه يا قوم اذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ جعل فيكم أنبياء وجعلكم ملوكا وآتاكم ما لم يؤت أحدا من العالمين يا قوم ادخلوا الأرض المقدسة التي كتب الله لكم ولا ترتدوا على أدباركم فتنقلبوا خاسرين. People of the book, fear the consequences of your crimes and bear in mind the incident when Moses said to his nation, people of my nation, think of the favor which God has bestowed upon you. He has raised up prophets among you and made you kings, and has given you that which he has given to no other nation. People of my nation, for this enter the holy city which God has ordained for you, and do not turn on your backs, otherwise you will lose everything. So the words that you need to note here are that is ja'ala fikum anbiya wa ja'alakum muluka, which means that the decision that has been taken by the Almighty is that He has decided to make prophets and kings among you. And the subtle way to express the certainty of a promise is that at times it is used in this sense, and it is evident from these verses that as far as this expression is concerned, He has made prophets among you, and of course He has raised prophets among you, and He has raised kings among you. Of course, we know Solomon and David being pointed out, people were given, and of course this is a reference to the fact that they were made the standard bearers and deliverers of the truth, shuhada al nas, which means that they were given this responsibility as the progeny of Abraham, that they would be delivering the word of God to other peoples of the world. And the Holy Land, which is mentioned here, of course, is the land of Palestine. It was here that had Moses had said that they must go there, and this land has been chosen for them. And look at the words katabul is go inside. But we know, as the verses are coming up, that the Israelites ultimately they showed this cowardice and they said, "Fazhab anta wa rabbuka faqatila." You and your Lord go and fight. We just cannot go there because there are people living there who are just going to be cruel to us and turn us out. And that is something which is mentioned in the subsequent verse, which says, "Qalu ya Musa inna fiha qawman jabbarin." They replied, Moses, very powerful people dwell there. We shall certainly not set foot in it until they go away. Indeed, if they go away, we shall definitely enter it. فَإِنْ يَخْرُجُوا مِنْهَا فَإِنَّا دَاخِلُونَ. قال رجلان من الذين يخافون أنعم الله عليهم ادخلوا الباب فإذا دخلتموه فإنكم غالبون وعلى الله فليتوكل المؤمنون قالوا يا موسى إنا لندخلها أبدا ما داموا فيها فاذهب أنت وربك فقاتلا إنا هاهنا قاعدون. However, from among their God-fearing men, there were two whom God had favored. They said, enter you upon the people of this city by forcing yourselves in through the gate. Then when you enter it, you will be victorious and trust God only if you believe in him. But they again said, Moses, as long as they are there, we shall never enter it. So go you and your Lord. Fazhab anta wa rabbuka faqatila, and fight, we shall sit here. So this is the conduct of the Israelites. Of course, they knew that they have been told by a prophet of God that this land has been ordained for them. All that you need to do is just go inside and you'll be victorious through God's help. And the two people who are mentioned here, of course, are Joshua and Caleb. Their names have been mentioned in the Bible. And they are the only two true successors in that regard, that they listened to Moses and they said, well, if God has ordained this land for us, then all that we need to do is just enter it, not be frightened, not in any way show cowardice at this time, even if there are very strong people who are living there and who might even maybe harm us. So this is a time of showing bravery and valor and courage. But we know that the Israelites were taken up, I mean, they were so overcome with cowardice and faint-heartedness, it would seem that as far as the as God Himself is concerned, He had given them this good news, these glad tidings that I'm going to be with you. You just need to enter. You just need to show this courage to enter the gates of the city, and then everything is going to be smooth. We also know that from the book of Numbers, of course, which is a book of the Old Testament, that the Israelites said all these things when the committee of 12 leaders had come back to Moses. Remember those 12 leaders that we have just referred to. So those 12 leaders, or the Naqib or Nuqaba, they had been sent by Moses to go and find out and investigate the situation. And we know that the report that they cited was that yes, they had very strong. I mean, they had people who lived there who were like giants, and we saw the Nephilim. We know that Nephilim, of course, is also like a mythical. They are mythical figures, and although I mean, yes, the Bible talks of them, but yes, there is this tradition which says that they were produced by the union of the fallen angels and human beings, and they were very they had very tall statures, and in fact, the Bible says that when these 12 people came back, they said that they were so tall that we felt like grasshoppers. Actually, this is the word of the Bible, that we felt like grasshoppers before them, and therefore we just cannot be in a position to fight them. But when they saw that this was a promise made to them by God, that if they enter them, then they'll be victorious. So they became very brave. But the rest of these Israelites, of course, we know that they did not in any way. I mean, they just said that they just gave up and said that we are not going to enter, and Moses and his God should go and fight. So with this, we come to an end to today's passage here. We'll have now time for your questions, and once your questions finish, then we'll take up the literal and idiomatic translation.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saleem. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Dr. Saleem, we did have tiny breaks. Sometimes we would lose your voice, but that was just a tiny part. Also, just some house rules. Please make sure that the questions you have pertaining to the passage today. In the end, if we have time, we'll open the forum for open questions. Dr. Salim, if I may begin with asking a question. My question
Hmm.
was, this is right after when Moses brought the religion to them and they were lost in the desert for 40 years and then they wanted to enter the Holy Land? Is this the time
Yes,
frame?
that was the time. Yeah.
Okay.
That was the time in which they were told that they have to enter the city of Palestine. It has been made, it has been ordained for you. All that you need to do is just enter it. But they showed this miserable resistance and cowardice. So after that, God said that now you're not going to, you will not be able to enter it for the next 40 years. So remember, the wandering in the desert, it was very initial, in the initial part that they had come near Palestine. But the wanderings were basically a punishment given to them for not actually obeying Moses. And we also know from history that a whole nation, a whole generation died in those 40 years. And Moses, in fact, also was not able to enter the land of Palestine because he also died in that generation.
So this was after the punishment and they still refused.
Which punishment?
You said when they were wandering for 40 years. So this was
Yes, that
after.
was, no, no, no. The punishment was the result of this refusal, actually.
Oh, okay.
When they refused to enter the land of Palestine, then it was said, Yatihuna fil ard, you will now wander for 40 years, Arbaina sana, and you'll not be able to enter it. Because God says, I had given you this news that if even if you're a few, I'm going to be with you, you can enter, you will be entering it, and you need not fear anyone in my presence. So they showed cowardice, they never entered the city, and now this punishment came upon them.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Salim. Imran, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saleem. Just
Well,
thank you very much for the explanation. On the verse 18, where you mentioned, they're both saying, Nahnu abnaullahi wa ahibbahu. Then, Quran says that they've been punished. Why were they punished?
mm,
So the question
mm,
comes like, Quran talks about Ad, Thamud, people of Lut, alayhi salam, and Shuaib, alayhi salam. They were destroyed, but Bani
mm,
Israel was only punished a couple of times, yet they kept disobeying and kept
mm,
causing mischief on earth. And why are they still not eradicated? And
mm.
then a book of Numbers, if you can give the whatever
Okay.
the point of contact there. So
Yes, so that is something, okay, that can be furnished. I'll provide that. But you see, you have to understand that the Israelites had a very special status in historically and in the history of prophethood. So before Abraham, prophets were sent individually to nations, and if they were, denied, if they were deliberately rejected, then the whole nation was destroyed. But in the times of Abraham, or from the times of Abraham, to be precise, the Almighty adopted a different strategy of delivering the truth. So previously, individual prophets were deputed to various cities or settlements. Now the Almighty said that I'm going to choose a whole nation, just as I choose prophets of God. So this nation of the Abraham, called the progeny of Abraham, I'm going to depute the whole progeny of Abraham on a project, and the project is to deliver the truth. All of you will become ambassadors of the truth and followers of Abraham, and then you are going to deliver this truth to the other parts or rest of the world, because now the world was expanding. Previously, of course, we had small pockets of settlements, and it was easy for a prophet to go to one settlement, do his work, and of course, and then God should pronounce his punishment. But when the time of Abraham arrived, it seems that the population of the world had increased, and it was no longer possible to send these individual prophets. In the sense that they were done before. So a whole nation was chosen for this. And the way it was actually done was that first the Israelites were chosen, the progeny of Isaac, and then the Ishmaelites were chosen. So they were given this whole time. Remember, until the day of judgment, the progeny of Abraham is given this project. So first the Israelites were given this project, and they miserably failed when they ended up actually trying to crucify Jesus. So now the Almighty said, because I've made this promise with the progeny of Abraham, and one generation or one branch of this progeny has failed, I'm going to test the other branch, which is the Ishmaelites. So when the Israelites failed, and of course the last nail in the coffin was when they tried to crucify Jesus, that responsibility was taken away from them and given to the Ishmaelites, and it now lies with the Ishmaelites until the day of judgment. So you see, this is like a whole process in which the Almighty has chosen a whole progeny for His work, and if they are not going to fulfill it, then of course they are going to be punished. And this is precisely what is happening both with the Israelites and with the Ishmaelites today. I mean, today you find both the Israelites and the Ishmaelites, being suffering, and at the same time being punished by the sword of God.
I see. I see. Thank you. Thank you. And then you were saying the quote from the Book of Numbers. If you have it by any chance, I would like to go back and read it. The details.
Okay, so I'll give it to our moderator here, and she'll post
Sure,
it.
sure. Those 12 leaders were sent, like you said, they were sent to find out about the Palestine and the people
Just
there. Okay,
find
okay.
out and have some information back with this information that these are giant-like people, and we feel like grasshoppers in front of them.
Yes.
And I mean, so like it's like a survey that they did, and it is because of their information that the whole, the whole assembly of people there, they were overcome with cowardice and faint-heartedness, and in spite of God's assurance, they said, "We will not enter that." So only two people we know from Bible, Joshua and Caleb. They were the ones who said that, well, it doesn't matter if there is a whole people of giants living there. We're just going to go there, and with God's help, we're going to conquer that place. And remember, it is something, because the Quran uses the words "Kataballahu lakum," and at other instances it says "Al-Ard al-Muqaddas."
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Imran, was your question answered? Are you good?
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jazakumullah khair. Thank you.
Shabnam, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Thank you. Sir, I have heard that there's a group among Christians who do believe in Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, but they believe that he was not sent for them. He was just meant for Bani Ismail. So, sir, is it true? Is it true?
Yes,
is there any such group?
This is true, and this is the stance of the current Christian world. Actually, it's not just a group of Christians. All the Christians today, in 19, I think there was a meeting that was conducted in the Vatican in the 1960s, and so you see, previously, Prophet Muhammad was called an impostor prophet. He was not regarded to be a prophet. He was regarded to be a charlatan, which means a false prophet. But now the Bible, Christendom has revised their policy or their understanding about Prophet Muhammad. Now they say that he's a prophet of God, but only for the Muslims.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Shabana Ansari, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम
जी वालेकुम अस्सलाम।
डॉक्टर साहब, क्या ये डीजेनरेशन का नतीजा होता है कि जैसे यहूद नसारा जो वो अपने आप को अहिब्बा समझने लगते हैं और लेकिन जो करने का काम है वो भूल जाते हैं? जैसे अब मुसलमान भी फलस्तीन के मामले में देख लें कि जब हमला करते हैं तो उस वक्त वो उन चीजों को देख रहे होते हैं कि वो आसमान से मदद आएगी और अल्लाह की तरफ से, और तैयारी की जो चीज खुदा ने सूरह बकरा में बताई है वो बिल्कुल ही उनकी नजरों से ओझल होती है, और उसके बाद जब तबाही होने लगती है तो फिर वो कह रहे होते हैं कि जी, जैसे हमारे उलमा जो ट्रेडिशनल है उन्होंने ये फतवा दे दिया कि जी जिहाद तो अब फर्ज हो गया है, खुद बेशक वो जाए या ना जाए, लेकिन जो मना कर रहे हैं उनको वो कहते हैं कि ये बुजदिल हैं और बुजदिली सिखा रहे हैं और ये गलत कर रहे हैं। तो ये क्या चीज है? ये मतलब ये कि बस ये समझते हैं कि करें कुछ नहीं और बस आसमान से मदद आती रहे।
देखिए, इसमें तो बहुत सारी गलतफहमियां हैं जो हमारे यहाँ इकट्ठी हो गई हैं। मैं आपकी आखिरी बात का जवाब पहले दे देता हूँ कि पहली बात तो ये है कि उलमा का काम ही नहीं है जहाद डिक्लेयर करना या जहाद के बारे में राय देना। वो हुक्मरानों को तवज्जो दिला सकते हैं, उनको ये कह सकते हैं कि देखिए हम फलां फलां वजूहात की वजह से आप इसको सोचें कि क्या हमें जहाद करना चाहिए, या अपनी वो राय उनको दे सकते हैं। ये बात कि वो कहें कि मुसलमानों पे जहाद फ़र्ज हो गया, ये अपने हदूद से मुतजाविज़ है और कभी भी ये काम उलमा को नहीं करना चाहिए और हमारी तारीख में कभी नहीं किया। ये इस दौर हाजिर की पस्ती है जिसमें उलमा ये शायद भूल गए हैं कि हुक्मरानों की जिम्मेदारी होती है जहाद को डिक्लेयर करना जब वो उसको समझते हैं, और उसकी बहुत सारी शरायतें ज़ाहिर है। उसमें आप ये तो नहीं सोच सकते कि आपको अगर आपके सामने अगर सिचुएशन ये हो कि जो असलहा जिसे आपने लड़ना है उसमें और उसकी निस्बत आपकी और आपके दुश्मन में एक और 10 लाख के बराबर हो, और आपको पता हो कि इस काम के नतीजे में आपको तो उनको तो कुछ नहीं होगा और आप ही को मिटा दिए जाएंगे और आपके सिविलियंस भी ख़त्म कर दिए जाएंगे, तो ये एक अलग बाब है बेबसीरती का कहना चाहिए। लेकिन जैसे आपने कहा कि डीजनरेशन हो या डेकेडेंस हो, उसको आप कुछ भी कह लें, असल चीज़ यही है कि हमें जो दीन की हिदायत दी गई हैं, जब उन हिदायत से हम मुनरिफ हो जाते हैं या उनकी जो सही तारीख़ी तनाजुर है वो हमारे से ओझल हो जाता है, तो फिर बहुत सारी इस तरह की जिम्मेदारियां और चीज़ें हम अपने ऊपर ले लेते हैं जो हम पे आयद नहीं की गई, या कम से कम उनकी तरतीब वो नहीं है। तो जो तरतीब है वो वही है कि हमें असल में ये देखना है कि हम कहाँ खड़े हैं, हमारी जो दीनी जिम्मेदारियाँ क्या हैं, फ़र्द की जिम्मेदारी क्या है, एक आलिम की क्या है, एक ग्रुप की क्या है, एक मुल्क की क्या है और उम्मत की क्या है। उस लिहाज से हमें बिहेव करना है, और किसी एक की जिम्मेदारी दूसरे पे ट्रांसफ़र नहीं की जा सकती। अगर कहीं कोताही हो रही है तो अल्लाह ताला ने उलमा को इसलिए मबूस किया है कि उनकी जिम्मेदारी ये है कि वो खुद ये काम नहीं करेंगे, बल्कि जिन लोगों की जिम्मेदारी जो काम करने की है, उनको वो इंज़ार करेंगे, उनको वार्न करेंगे, उनको तवज्जो दिलाएँगे। तो असल में ये हुदूद से तजावुज़ करने का नतीजा है कि वो ज़िम्मेदारी जो आप पे आयद नहीं की गई है, आपने वो अपने सिर में ले ली है, और आपकी ज़िम्मेदारी ये थी कि आम आदमियों की तरबियत करते, उनके अंदर अखलाक का शऊर पैदा करते। वो तो ज़िम्मेदारी बहुत दूर-दूर तक अदा ही नहीं हो रही, और जो कुछ अदा हो रहा है वो वही ज़िम्मेदारी है जो असलन मुल्क के हुक्मरानों की ज़िम्मेदारी है, और वो आपने अपने सर ले ली है। तो ये अब तक़सीम ज़ाहिर है जब तक दुरुस्त नहीं होगी तो ये नाअमली रहेगी।
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Naushad Shafkat Sahab, you're up next.
Dr. Sahab, would it be correct to assume that the mutations made in the Torah was with regarding only the commandments of God to do something or not to do something, while the story is related in the Bible, and I think Ghamidi Sahab also refers to them as being more explanatory than the Quran. For example, by Tala Ibrahima, when Abraham's act of slaughtering his son, and also when Abraham entered into a dialogue to stop God from destroying the nation of Lot. Would that be correct to say that yes, those parts have remained untouched? Only the commandments that they were asked to obey, they were ordered.
I think maybe it's slightly oversimplification if we assume this, because I think it's better to take things on a case-to-case basis. And one litmus test is that wherever you find the Quran commenting on a incident or on a story that is also mentioned in the Bible, then more often than not, this is of a corrective nature. The Quran wants to set right the record that has been, floundered, or in some cases not been correctly reported. So it's not always the same as you think that we should take it on this face value. I think many incidents that are mentioned in the Bible and also in the Quran, on many occasions, I find the reason of that mention is that the Quran wants to correct it, either to correct it, or at times it wants us to understand that there is a certain reason for that incident, and that reason or that objective has been just lost, and it would like to remind us. But yes, I would say that instead of giving this or deriving this general principle, it's better to take every incident on a case-to-case basis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Salman Aziz Sahab, you're up next.
Look, ayat 14 probably you talked about the enmity between Jews and Christians, sir. But the ayat itself talks about the enmity and is talking about Christians. So many of our Mufassir Sahiban has said that this enmity is amongst the Christian groups and not between Christians and Jews, sir. Would you please
Which verse?
elaborate?
Just let me see the verse.
14 probably the same. When the Almighty says that we
Okay,
have.
so it's فَأَغْرَيْنَا بَيْنَهُمُ الْعَدَاوَةَ وَالْبَغْضَاءَ. So, I mean, if you look at the context, the Quran does not say that this was between the Christian sects themselves. It mentions the Jews and it mentions the Christians, and then it says فَأَغْرَيْنَا بَيْنَهُمُ الْعَدَاوَةَ. So I don't know how people have construed this, that this enmity is being mentioned here in reference to the Christian sects themselves. What has been mentioned here is that the Jews and Christians, remember, these are the two groups that are being discussed here. The Quran is not discussing the groups amongst Christians. Had this been the case, it would have referred to those groups. It is referring to the Nasara and it is referring to the Jews. And then both are guilty of the same thing. If you look at the verses, it says, they actually say, "Nasu hazzam mimma zukiru bihi." This is a common verse between both, that they forgot a part of that through which they were reminded. This was the same mistake or sin which the Jews committed as the Christians did. And for the first, it says that as a result of that, you'll see that they will continue to give you some incident in which some form of dishonesty is going to be divulged to you. And then it says the same mistake was made by the Jews, by the Christians, when misak was taken from them, and fanasu hazzam mimma zukiru bihi. And they too forgot. They also forgot a part of that through which they had been reminded. So if you combine those two things together, my understanding is that فَأَغْرَيْنَا بَيْنَهُمُ الْعَدَاوَةَ actually relates to the Jews and the Christians, and not to groups amongst the Christians. Historically also, if you look at a lot of things that have transpired between these two groups, remember there is a form of equilibrium today that you face, but this rivalry is still there. The Jews have taken hold of the Christians. They have sort of taken them in their own grip in such a manner that, in spite of wanting to be released from their grasp, they are simply unable to. If you look at a little more detail and in a more subtle way, you'll see that this rivalry is in the form of a Cold War in which they have sort of made this peace amongst themselves politically. And as far as religiously taken things are concerned, you'll find that is still existing, because you see, it is the Jewish scholars today who deny Jesus. They think that he is an impostor prophet. They don't grant him any status. And if you combine their denials with the fact that they denied not only Jesus, they also denied Muhammad. But on the other hand, the Christians, they have not done so. I mean, they, as I just answered a question, that initially they regarded Prophet Muhammad to be an impostor prophet, and later on they have now upgraded opinion by at least according him this status of prophet, being a prophet. But the Jews, even today, they don't accept him as a prophet of God.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Iraj, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saab.
Wa alaikum salam.
Dr. Saab, I wanted to ask, when God punished the nation of Israel, why was Musa alayhi salam not able to enter the Holy Land? I mean, I understand that obviously he was with his people and everything, but why was it that he was not allowed to enter the Holy Land himself? Because he also died
yes.
outside the Holy Land. He wasn't able to enter there.
So yes, this is a question that has been tackled by many scholars, and I think the correct answer here is that, I mean, he was part of his nation, he did his best, and the decision regarding that generation, of course, those 40 years in which a whole generation passed away, I mean, he was one of those people who was amongst them. And being part of them, because God decided that they did not honor his prophet, their prophet, so they are not worthy of being guided into the land in his presence. So maybe it is more a form of a further form of humiliation for the Israelites, that when they did enter, they were without their prophet. So it was no longer a punishment for Moses, it was more a punishment for them, that they lost their prophet as a result of their own refusal in the first stage.
Abdul Rahman, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Sir, two, three questions back, you were saying that the scholars should do inzar for the rulers of a country. I mean, I was thinking, like, if religion, the purpose of religion is to warn people about the next afterlife, life after death. So why politics is involved? So why do ulama have to instruct the rulers? Is it not completely political? And due to this political reason only, many extremist organizations are in place.
So the extreme organizations are not in place because they don't want the rulers. They are doing things that rulers should do themselves. So they have taken up the task of rulers. So you see, the scholars, they are meant to remind all sorts of people if they are showing negligence in their duties. They should remind the common man, they should remind the scholars, they should remind people of their own nation, they should remind people who are on positions of authority. So basically, these scholars are like they have inherited the duty of warning from the prophets of God. So this warning is an all-embraced, it embraces all sectors of life, people of all walks of life. So because these rulers, they are meant to follow, installed as rulers, so if they show any negligence, of course they will be they will be called to attention. So basically this responsibility of the scholars is like an all embracing responsibility. It extends to all spheres of life, because basically they are trying to tell people the responsibilities that have been imposed on them by God are not being properly followed. So I mean, if they confine themselves to this, then there is nothing wrong with it. What happens is that scholars, they take another leap and they say, okay, if you're not doing these things, then okay, we're going to take up those things on our own behalf. It is here where the problem lies.
Sir, just
Thank
a
you.
follow up on that. Is Dr. Israr Ahmed based? I mean, he created a complete system, political system of kind of like with from religion. He extracted the entire political system from a religion. So, did he do it right? I mean, was it right for him to do that?
I mean, this is something that you should ask him. What I can comment is what his opinion was on a certain thing, or maybe some of his views that I can comment on, because as far as he is concerned, he is liable for what he is brought up or what he is taught.
Okay,
Thank you
sir.
for
Thank
that,
you so
Dr.
much.
Saleem. Salman Zisa, please, you may ask your question.
Sir, we had just studied about the eternal punishment for the Jews. Sir. There is a group probably called the Haredi Jews or ultra Orthodox that don't believe in Zionism and don't
Hmm.
believe in the current Zionist state. Sir. Could you please tell, sir, they have the source of their belief somewhere in Quran, or they have some other source that they have a belief that they are still under the wrath of God and only God will relieve them from their punishment?
I'm sorry, because you see, there are about, to my knowledge, 7 or 6 of major sects of the Jews, the Orthodox ones, the New Orthodox ones, the liberal ones, and etc. All of them. So the ones that you are referring to, they need, I mean, the what they are and how they actually stand and what are what their reasoning is something that I am not very well aware of. So you might need to find out from sources that are available to you.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you
you, sir.
so Thank you, Dr. Saleem. We have no more raised hands. Dr. Saleem, you may continue.
Okay, so I'm going to start off the literal and idiomatic translation of the part that we have studied today. Starts off like this: وَلَقَدْ أَخَذَ اللَّهُ مِيثَاقَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ. Wa and laqad, indeed, akhaza, took, Allah, God. So indeed God took Misaka Bani Israel, Misak, covenant, Bani Israel, Israelites. So indeed God took a covenant from the Israelites. Wa ba'asna, wa and ba'asna, we sent, minhum, from among them, ithnai ashara. Ithnai ashara means 12. Naqiba, guardians. God says, we sent among them 12 guardians or 12 leaders or 12 chiefs. Wa and Qala Allah. Qala said, Allah, God. And God said, Inni, I, ma'akum, with you. So God said, I am with you on the condition. What is that condition? La in aqamtum as-salah. La in means if. Aqamtum, adhere as-salat, to the prayer. So if you adhere to the prayer, wa ataytum, wa and ataytum, you give az-zakat, the zakat, wa and amantum, you professed faith, bi rusuli, in my messengers, wa and azzartumuhum. So azzartumuhum would mean that you actually acknowledge them, you actually sort of give them this nod that yes, you are prophets of God. So amantum biruzuli wa azzartumuhum would mean that you actually help them and you acknowledge them. Wa and aqradtumullah. Aqradtumullah means you gave a loan to God. You gave a loan to God, qardan hasana. So you gave to God a goodly loan. It's like that. You gave to God a generous loan or a goodly loan. Qarzan hasana, a generous loan. And so now the answer to the condition is mentioned here. If you do this and this and this, then God says, La ukaffiranna ankum. I shall, ukaffir anna ankum means I shall brush away from you. Sayyi'atikum, your minor sins. So I've already discussed this. The word sayyi'at refers to minor sins. Kum, yours. I shall brush away minor sins from you. Wa, and. لَأُدْخِلَنَّكُمْ, I shall admit you. لَأُدْخِلَنَّكُمْ, I shall admit you. Jannat, in orchards. Tajri, min, flow. Tahtiha, below which. Anhar, streams. So into orchards below which streams flow, of course, referring to the fact that these orchards will be at a high altitude. Fa, therefore, man, he, kafara, denied, ba'da zalika, after this, minkum, from among you. So he who denied after this among you, faqad, faqad zalla sawa as-sabil, faqad indeed, zalla, lost, sawa, way, middle, so sawa actually means middle, sabil, way. So he who denied after this from among you, he who denied after this from among you, he actually left the straight path, or he deviated, zalla, he deviated sawa as-sabil, from the straight path. Fa, therefore, bima, because, therefore, because, naqdihim, naqs means break or breach, because of their breakage or because of their breach, misakahum, of their covenant, misak, covenant, him, whom theirs, what happened? La'annahum. La'annahum, we cursed them. La'anna means cursed, hum means them. We cursed them. Wa, and ja'alna, we made qulubahum, their hearts. We made their hearts qasiya. Qasiya means hard. So we hardened their hearts. Yuharrifuna. Yuharrifuna means they alter. Al-kalim, the words. An, from. Mawadi'ihi, their places. So literally it means places. Otherwise, of course, the connotation is that they alter the words from their context and background. So that is what they do. This is how the Quran has mentioned their chart sheet. Wa, and nasu, they forgot. Hazzan, a part. Mimma, from. Zukkiru bihi, from which they had been reminded. So they had forgotten a part of that through which they had been reminded. Which means, of course, what they were given, the Torah, they actually forgot a part of that. Wala tazalu. Wala tazalu means and continuously. Tattali'u. You will hear. Ala kha'inatim minhum. Some dishonesty of theirs. Ala kha'inatim. Kha'ina means dishonesty. Minhum, from of theirs. Illa, except. Qalilam minhum. A few of them. Which means that you will continue to hear of one dishonesty or the other from them. Wala tazalu tattalu. Tazalu means continuously you'll hear of their dishonesty. Illa qalilam minhum, except from a few of them. So most of them will be showing this dishonesty, but a few of them will not. Farfu anhum. Farfu anhum would mean overlook them. Wasfah. So wasfah would mean, it's also a similar word which means that ignore them. Overlook them, ignore them. Inna, indeed, Allah, God, yuhibbu, likes, al-muhsineen, the thorough. Indeed, God likes the thorough. وَمِنَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّا نَصَارَى. Wa, and. مِنَ الَّذِينَ, those who. قَالُوا, said. Inna, we. Nasara, Nazarenes. And among those who said that we are Nazarenes, what happened? أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَهُمْ. أَخَذْنَا means we took. Mithaqahum, their covenant. In other words, we took a covenant from them. فَنَسُوا حَزَّمْ مِمَّا ذُكِّرُوا بِهِ. Then, nasu, forgot. Hazzan, part. Mimma, of that. Zukkiru bihi, they were reminded of. So they too forgot a part of that through which they were reminded of. The same thing which the Jews were guilty of, they also were guilty of. And what happened? فَأَغْرَيْنَا بَيْنَهُمُ الْعَذَابَ. Therefore, أغرينا, we ignited. أغرينا, to ignite. بَيْنَهُمْ, between them. So we ignited between them. Al-adava. Al-adava means animosity. Wa and al-baghdha. Baghdha means hatred or malice. And so we ignited between them hatred and malice. Ila yawm al-qiyamah. Ila towards, until. Yawm al-qiyamah, the day of judgment. So we ignited between them this malice and this hatred. Wa and Saufa, very soon. Yunabbi'uhumullahu, God, yunabbi'uhum will inform them. Allah, God. Saufa means soon. Soon inform them, God. That would be the literal translation. And idiomatically, it would mean soon God will inform them. Bima, about. Kanu, they were. Yasnaun, doing. So soon God will inform them about what they were doing. Ya Ahlul Kitab, Ya Ahlul Kitab, O people of the book. Qad, indeed, Ja'akum, has come to you. Rasuluna, our messenger. O people of the book, a messenger of ours has come to you. Yubayyinu lakum. Yubayyinu would mean who is explaining to you. Yubayyinu lakum, explaining to you. Kathiram, a lot of. Mimma, that. Kuntum, you. Tukhfuna, were hiding. Minal kitab, from the book. So, O people of the book, a messenger of ours has come to you who's explaining to you what you were, he's explaining to you a lot of that you were hiding from the book. Wa ya'fu an kathir. Wa and ya'fu, he overlooks. An kathir, a lot of things. So he is overlooking a lot of things. Kad, indeed, ja'akum, has come to you. Minallahi, from God. Nur, light. Wa and kitabun mubin. Kitabun mubin means a radiant book. So indeed, there has come to you a light and a radiant book. So now you can see the word wow is basically of explication, which means nur, which is the clear book of God, or which is a book of God that explains everything. Yahdi bihi, gives guidance through it. Yahdi gives guidance, bihi, through it. Allah, God, gives guidance through it, God, or literally and idiomatically it would mean God gives guidance through it. Manittaba, to whom, who follow. Ridwanahu, who follow. What does he who follow? Who follow his pleasure. Subul salam, the paths of peace. So in other words, Yahdi bihillahu manittaba, God guides those who follow. Manittaba subul salam, basically paths of peace, and who also seek to please him. Ittaba rizwanahu and ittaba subul salam, basically. So through it, through this book, God guides to peace those who seek to basically please him. Manittaba rizwanahu, those who would like to please him, he guides them to the paths of peace. Salam is peace. Subul is the plural of sabil, and it means paths. So you can understand how this verse actually it actually parses that through it God guides those who follows his pleasure to paths of peace. Wa and yukhrijuhum, he takes them minas zulumat, from darkness, ilan nur, towards light, biiznihi, with his permission, which means that he takes them to light from darkness through his permission. Or as we have discussed, that the word permission actually here refers to his grace and his blessings. So actually, idiomatically, it would mean that God guides people from darkness to light through his graciousness. Wa and yahdihim, he guides them. Ila, towards sirat, path. Mustaqim, straight. And he guides them towards the straight path. لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْمَسِيحُ ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ. لَقَدْ, indeed, kafara, disbelieved. الَّذِينَ, those who, قَالُوا, said. So indeed, those who said, disbelieved. And what did they say? Inna Allah huwa al-Masih ibn Maryam. Inna, indeed, Allah, God, huwa, he, al-Masih, Messiah, ibn Maryam, son of Mary. So God is the son of Mary. Whoever said this, lakat kafara, he actually did disbelief. He committed disbelief. Qul, say, faman who, Yamliku min Allahi shay'a. So yamliku min Allahi shay'a would mean who can prevent God? Who can prevent God? Who is going to be who is going to have authority from God? Slightly, shay'an slightly, in arada, if he wants, an that, yuhlika, he destroys, al-Masih ibn Maryam, the Messiah, son of Mary, wa, and, ummahu, his mother, wa, and, man, they, fi, in, al-ard, in the earth, jamia, all of them. So who can have this authority to stop him even slightly if he decides to destroy the Messiah, son of Mary, his mother, and all those man fil ardi jamia, all those who are in the earth. Wa, and lillahi, to God, mulkus samawat, the dominion of the heavens, wa, and al ard, the earth, and to God belongs the dominion of the heavens and the earth, wa, and ma, that, ma bainahuma, and between them. So all that is between the heavens and the earth, and the heavens and the earth themselves, they belong to God, and no one can stop him if he decides to do something. Yakhluku, creates, ma yasha, whatever he wants. He creates whatever he wants. Wallahu, wallah, indeed God, Allah kulli, on everything, on every, in fact, shay'in is thing, qadir, powerful, which means God has power over everything. وقالت اليهود والنصارى نحن أبناء الله وأحباؤه. وقالت اليهود, and the Jews said, والنصارى, and the Christians also said, نحن, we, أبناء we are the children of God, we are the sons of God, wa, and أحباؤه, and his favored ones and his loved ones, أحبة, the plural of Habib, who are his loved ones. قل, ask them, falima, why, then why? Yu'azzibukum, he punishes you, bizunubikum, because of your sins. Zunub is sins, zam of course is the singular, zunub it's plural. So why does he punish you for your sins? Bal, in fact, antum, you, basharun, mortals, mimman khalaq, who have been created by him. So you are only mortals who have been created by him. Yaghfiru liman yasha, yaghfiru, forgives, liman yasha, to those for those he wants. So he forgives those he wants. وَيُعَذِّبُ مَنْ يَشَاءُ, and he yu'azzibu, punishes, man yasha, he wants, and he punishes whom he wants. Of course, we have discussed this, that when God says that he punishes whomsoever he wants to, or forgives whomsoever he wants to, it is just a mention of the authority that he has, and obviously whoever he will be punishing or rewarding will be based on his wisdom. Wa, and lillah, to God, mulkus samawati wal ard, the dominion of the heavens and the earth. Wa ma bainahuma, bainahuma, between them, ma bainahuma, and that which is between them. So the dominion of the earth and the heavens belongs to him, and also to whatever is between them. Wa, and ilayhi, towards him, al masir, the resting place, and towards him is the return, or towards him is the resting place. Ya Ahlul Kitab, Qad Ja'akum Rasuluna. Ya Ahlul Kitab, O people of the book. Qad Ja'akum, indeed has come to you. Rasuluna, our messenger. Yubayyinu lakum, he clarifies. Lakum, to you. Ala, after. Fatratim min rusul, after a gap between the messengers. So, in other words, he has come to you while, in order to explain to you, after a gap, which means after many messengers had not come, or after there was a gap between the messengers, lest you say, antakulu, lest you say, ma ja'ana, ma, not, ja'ana, came to us, min bashir, any deliverer of glad tidings, wa, and la, not any deliverer of warning. Nazir, deliverer of warning. So, lest you say that neither a Bashir has come to us nor a Nazir. So, lest you say that neither a deliverer of glad tidings nor of warnings came to us. Fa, therefore, qad, indeed, ja'akum, has come to you, Bashir wa Nazir, a deliverer of glad tidings, Bashir wa, and Nazir, a deliverer of warnings. So, indeed has come to you. So, what was being said earlier was that this messenger has been said has come to you, lest that you would say that no messenger has come to us. Now that he has come to you, remember that this is something which God has fulfilled. فَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ بَشِيرٌ وَنَذِيرٌ وَاللَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ Wa, and Allah, God, ala, on kulli, every, shay'in, thing, qadir, powerful. And indeed, or God has power over everything. وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِقَوْمِهِ يَا قَوْمِ اذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ Wa, and is when Qala said, Musa, Moses, and when Moses said, لِقَوْمِهِ, towards his nation or to his nation. What did he say? Ya Qawm, O my nation, Uzkuru, remember, Ni'matullah, God's favor, alaykum, upon you, is when Ja'ala, made, he made, fikum, between you, or among you, Anbiya, prophets. He made prophets among you. Wa ja'alakum muluka, and ja'alakum, he made you muluka, kings. So Malak, of course, is the singular, and muluk is the plural. He made you kings. Wa, and atakum, he gave you. Ma, that, lam, not, yu'ti, he gave, ahadan, anyone, min al alamin, of the worlds. So he gave you what he did not give to anyone amongst the people of the world. Min al alamin. Ya qawm, O people, udkhulu, enter, al ard al muqaddasa, the holy land, enter the holy land, allati, that, kataballahu lakum, which God has ordained for you. Kataballah, ordained, Allah, God, lakum, for you. God has ordained for you. Wa, and la, not, tartaddu, turn back, ala adbarikum, on your backs. Do not turn back on your backs. فَتَنْقَلِبُوا خَاسِرِينَ Fa, therefore, tanqalibu khasirin, you will lose, you will end up khasirin, everything, losing everything. Otherwise, you'll end up losing everything. Qalu, they said, Ya Musa, O Moses, inna, indeed, fiha, in it, kauman jabbarin, in it are people who are very powerful. In it means in the city are people, or in the land are people who are very powerful. Wa, and inna, indeed, lan, certainly not, nadkhulaha, enter it, and indeed we shall not enter it. That is what they said. Hatta, until, yakhruju minha, until they go away from that place. Fa in yakhruju minha, fa, therefore, in, if, yakhruju, they go out, minha, from that land, fa inna, therefore we, dakhilun, we will enter it. So if they go out from that land, then we will enter it. That is the condition that they imposed before Moses. Qala rajulan, Qala said, rajulan, two people, minal lazina, from among those, yakhafuna, who had this fear of God. In other words, they were God-fearing men. An'amallahu alayhima, on whom God had looked upon with favor. An'amallahu, God had looked them upon with favor. Alayhima, the two of them. Udkhulu, enter. Alayhimul baba. So these two people, what did they say? They went back to their nation. They called out to them and said, Udkhulu, enter. Alayhimul baba. Udkhulu alayhim, enter upon them, al baba, through the gate. You enter, or you force themselves, you just go through that gate and enter upon them. Fa, therefore, iza, when, dakhaltumuhu, you enter it. Dakhaltumuhu, you enter it. Fa innakum, then indeed you, ghalibun, dominant. So when you enter it, you will be dominant, because this is God's promise with you. Wa, and, alallahi, upon God. Fatawakkalu, repose your trust. In kuntum, if you are mu'mineen, believers. So repose your trust in God if you are true believers. Qalu, they said, Ya Musa, O Moses, inna, indeed we, lan, certainly not, nadkhulaha, enter it, abada, forever, madamu, as long as fiha, they are there, as long as they live there, we are not going to enter that city. Fazhab, therefore, fazhab, go. Izhab, so fa is basically coming on the alif, making it fazhab, otherwise it was fa izhab. Fazhab, you go, and anta is you. Fazhab, go you, wa, and rabbuka, your Lord. So go you and your Lord. Therefore, qatila, and fight. You and your Lord go and fight. Inna, indeed we, hahuna, at this place, qaidun, sit. You and your Lord go and fight. We are going to sit here. Inna hahuna qaidun. So this was the answer that they gave, and this brings us to an end to this idiomatic and literal translation also. So if we have time, we can take more questions.
Yes, Dr. Saleem Imran has a question. Please unmute your mic and ask.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Just quickly about the adab on the people. In Surah Anfal, it says, وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُعَذِّبَهُمْ وَأَنْتَ فِيهِمْ. So Prophet ﷺ has been spoken to that the Quraysh is not being punished because you are within them. Is that true still for today's Muslims, that if they are intermingled with the oppressors, that, or is it just specifically for the Prophet? And I was trying to look up in the Quran, is there something said that because of the mercy of the Prophet ﷺ, that the nations are not going to be completely destroyed anymore?
There is no such thing in the second thing that you have said. And as far as the verse is concerned, that specifically relates to the Prophet of God and to his nation, because you see, this is a whole law of God that has been discussed a number of times in the Quran, that regarding his messengers, as long as they stay amongst their people, they are like a protection for them. But once they migrate from them, because the law of God is that once a messenger has communicated the truth to them and they end up deliberately denying their messenger, then they are either punished by the swords of the believers or by the hands of God. So therefore, in this regard, this is not a general rule, it's not a general statement, it's specifically meant for the messengers of God.
Yes, it's only applicable for the time of the Prophet.
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Dr. Saleem, I have a question just expanding on what Iraj had asked earlier. What is the punishment that Moses was given for related to the disobedience of the water from the rock? What is that? Is there some
Moses was given no punishment. What I was explaining was that basically the Israelites were punished that they did not enter the land of Palestine in the presence of Moses. Had they gone in the presence of their prophet, the matters would have been much different. But because of their refusal, their first punishment was that they were left to wander in that desert for 40 years. The second punishment was that Moses left them during this time. He passed away, and they lost this opportunity of entering the land through him. So it's not a punishment to Moses, actually. It was a punishment, in fact, to his followers.
Okay. Muhammad Khan, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Saab. My question is regarding these verses which ended at verse 24. I was just wondering, like the people, when they refused to go there because they feared those powerful people, so how would you relate it with the fact that, as per my understanding, that one should keep oneself restrained if you are not in a position to challenge others or if the other people are powerful. So I hope you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yes, I do understand. You see, there's a very fundamental difference. There's a difference between God promising someone and telling them that I'm going to be with you if you just take up the task, because it is my mission that I'm giving you. All that you need to do is show that bravery, and the rest I will do. So that is a very specific thing, and that is precisely what the Quran is mentioning here. And as far as we are concerned, of course, our parameters and things that we do they are governed by different laws. So yes, for us, it would be something of a suicide if we do that, and we have to calculate and measure our way through. But remember, these are people who were promised by God that He will be with them, and He's going to take care of everything, because as the words say, Al-Ard al-Muqaddasa allati kataballahu lakum. This is the holy land which God has ordained for them. He has decided to give it to them. All that they need to do is get hold of that place, and any difficulty that they're going to encounter is going to be just done away by God Himself. So there is a world of difference between the two.
Thank you for that. Just a few more things. So, does that also explain the prophetic tradition when he was up against those powerful people? He was asked by the God not to, rise up against them, and so that was a difference between the previous instance in Musa's, the duration. So because the God had asked them to rise against those powerful people, and he will be able to protect them. But in Prophet Muhammad's case, he was restrained by the God himself.
Of course, I mean, wherever God restrains a prophet, then he has to stay restrained. And wherever God says, I'm going to promise help, then of course that promise is to be honored. And everything has its own place.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Saleem, we're out of time, but we have one more raised hand and then one off-topic question. Is it okay to do
Yes,
that?
please go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Salman Aziz sir, please ask your question.
Sir, yesterday you talked about the somewhat, I think, revolutionary saying by Imam Ahmed bin Hanbal about the Sharan Nazul and especially the tafsir narrative. Could you please
Yes.
explain kindly the tafsir narrative, please?
So tafsir narratives are ones that are normally not found in hadith books. So there's an independent genre of narratives which are cited by tafsir authorities, by the tabi'un directly, and they are recorded in hadith, in these tafsir literature, and you'll not find them in hadith collections. So they are an independent genre, and most of them, as Imam Ahmed bin Hanbal has also said, they are spurious and dubious, and they have little authenticity. So they are basically a distinction that is being made, that there is a whole genre of hadith that is taken care of by measuring and by investigating their authenticity, and after that our hadith scholars have placed them in their anthologies. But this whole compendium of tafsir riwayats, they have not been taken up by them because of their inauthenticity, and they remain in these tafsir books the way they are. So they have not been they have not been deemed as qualified or content of authenticity by our hadith scholars.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. I have one more question, which is an off-topic question in the chat. What kind of makeup application falls under the ruling of tabarruj?
What kind of makeup application?
Yeah.
I mean, makeup is anything that you make yourself adorn with when you're embellishing yourself, and tabarruj, of course, is something that was explained to the wives of the Prophet in those times, that as a precautionary measure, they must not go out because these hypocrites are after them. They are going to besmear them with all sorts of lies, and they are going to misreport incidents. So therefore they were told, La tabarrujna tabarruj al jahiliyat al ula, that they should not go out in the manner normal women or women of the past would do so, by adorning themselves. So this was a very specific thing that was meant for the wives of the Prophet. As far as makeup itself is concerned, that is discussed separately at another instance in the Quran, which says, La yubdina zinatahunna illa ma zahara minha. So tabarruj and zina must not be confused. Tabarruj was sort of a makeup or style of not just makeup, but conducting yourself regarding the wives of the Prophet, and they were told that they should not go out in this manner because these hypocrites are going to just blame them and cast aspersions on their character. For normal Muslim women, the issue of makeup is dealt with in this verse, which says La yubdina zinatahunna, which means that they should not display their finery except on organs or on limbs which are visible, and that includes your face. So it means that, of course, the lady can reasonably do makeup on her face, and that is how it is mentioned here. So zinat is the word that is the correct word, I think, that she might be asking or he might be asking.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saleem. We're all out of time, and there are no more questions, of course, at this time. And thank you so much for the wonderful session and for your wisdom. We will, inshallah, be congregating again next week. See you then. Khuda
Thank
Hafiz,
you
everyone.
very much.
Allah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Allah.